Good day. Welcome to Hunny Walia shows. I'm your host Sonal Fool. We always bring issues which basically not are concerning us, we are facing in Edmonton, in Alberta, in Canada. And we bring the different expertise from different part of the life who basically have a knowledge, have experience, and they can share their experience, expertise with us. Today we have Denise Woollard with us. She is a social worker. She has been directly or indirectly involved in education system. She has a background including Master in Education, Bachelor of Arts in English, Professional Diploma in Educational Psychology, and Diploma in Special Education. So by this you must have thought already about it. We are going to talk about the new education program, which is a pilot program which is already in process, and which is K-6 pilot program, which will going to change the education system for the students, especially from kindergarten to grade 6. Teachers are talking about, unions are talking about. So we will talk to Denise and ask her expertise, what she thinks as a retired teacher or being directly or indirectly involved in the education system. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you, Sunny. It's good to be here. I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to talk about the curriculum. As a retired teacher, I'm in contact with a lot of other teachers, working ones and retired ones, and there's a lot of commentary going on to the point where it's hard to get through everything written about the new curriculum.
So, Denise, like when we talk about the new curriculum, and you have been teaching directly or indirectly, you have been involved with the education system in the last 35 years. Mm-hmm. This is not a new program which has come. The other previous governments, like including PC and NDP, both have worked in this, to developing this program, and they thought is neat. So when we talk about the experts have been given, teacher associations were involved, teachers were involved, parents were involved in developing this program, which wasn't working from last 10 to 12 years. What suddenly happened now?
Well, and that's a really good question. Yes, the review, the rewrite of the curriculum was begun about 10 years ago, maybe 12, like you said, and after the PC government was out of office, the NDP government continued the work on it, and they involved thousands of teachers and members of the ATA and experts in education and experts from the university who work in the area of curriculum. But because it was they were reviewing all areas of the curriculum, so it was slow in getting completed. The new government decided to start a new rewrite of the curriculum from kindergarten to grade 6. And they released their draft document, in a year and a half, so it was quite quickly done. Now, what a lot of people found is that it kind of looks like it was quickly done. Right away, there were errors made that have had to be fixed up, so it's still a kind of an unfinished work. But some of the other differences are they didn't involve very many people who actually work with children. They had one group of 100 teachers to review the curriculum in December, but they only had a 2-day opportunity to do that, and they all had NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, so they weren't able to tell anybody what they thought of the curriculum, and no one was able to find out what the Department of Education, what the ministry thought of their comments. So it was all very, very hush-hush. So we don't really know that much. The ATA was not involved in their process. And
sorry, Denise, when we say ATA, so just wanted to assure everyone understand what you mean by ATA, if you can give me full abbreviation for it.
Alberta Teachers Association.
Thank you, ma'am.
All the teachers in Alberta belong to it, and it is a professional association, and they were not involved. They've been involved with government curriculum rights for the last 100 years, but now they weren't.
When we are taught, now these are the concerns we are bringing, right?
Yeah.
A lot of of concerns have come about the religion, right? Involving the religion in the public schools. And being in the South Asian communities, we have heard also like the religions which are the oldest religion in the world, like Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, civilizations like Indus Valley civilization, which was the first civilization, one of the first civilization in the world. They have not given proper representation. What your thoughts are, not as a religious prospects, but as a children and the education system and a religion?
You know, and this is a really interesting point, because there's some things here that are kind of hard to figure out. One professor at I'm not sure which University of Alberta, I think, was saying that the section, she looked at grade 2 social studies. So grade 2, we're looking at 7-year-olds, right? And she said that there was so much on religion that it made it seem like it was a religious teaching rather than school. But you're absolutely right. The 3 major religions were talked to, and none of the others were mentioned. Now, I think it said somewhere that later on they did mention other religions, like in grade 4 or 5. But for the early grades, it was very specific, but very in-depth. So it's hard to figure out what exactly.
So now, Denise, we're talking about the age group, like from kindergarten, which are grade from, age, say, 5 or 6, and then going to grade 6, which is 11 or 12.
Yes.
Then a lot of concerns, or the comments have come, I should be saying, from the parents and what in the media. They have talked about the education system which we have brought is not age appropriate, or it's not going to help development of the children or the kids, the child in the school. Emotionally, socially, religiously, all those concerns have come up.
Yes.
What's your thoughts around that?
I totally agree, because again, I'm going back to the grade 2 social curriculum. They have got so much information here. I've taught grade 2 social studies. I can't imagine a 7-year-old ever that could take in all this information. It's so much. There's so many facts, and they're to be memorized, I guess. I don't think that when children that age would understand what it's all about, or have any feeling of, what's that got to do with me? In the previous curriculum, in all the various curriculums, because being as I taught for 32 years, when you're a teacher, you use the curriculum to decide, to know what you're supposed to be teaching. And you would always be starting the lower grades with learning from where they are, the families, the community, the school, the various groups, and you work outward. And then you learn about Alberta. I can still remember teaching in grade 3 or grade 4 about Alberta and the geography, and then you move up and learn more about Canada. So to have children start off in grade 2 with learning all about ancient Rome and ancient Greece and Athenian democracy and medieval England and so many things, that you're going to have a hard time even helping the children understand where these places are, let alone why.
So it's not more as, so if we are talking about all those things, we are not just talking about social studies, we are also talking about the geography of the whole world too.
Yeah, and they include geography and social studies, yeah.
My next question is like the concerns we have heard about the English language art portion of the draft curriculum. Concerns have been raised about the focus on decoding and phonetic with a lack of emphasis on the development of reading and comprehension.
Yeah.
Like, when we talk about, you can read it, but are you able to comprehend, you can understand age appropriately what it means?
Exactly. There was a really good article for anybody that still reads newspapers last Friday. And the writer, she is a professor, and I've got her name here, she was saying that the part of the curriculum based on decoding, phonetics, is good. The person who was in charge of that, that's an expert in that, he was an expert in that field. But there's just about nothing on comprehension. And you're right. If people just learn the mechanics of what this letter sounds like in a word and how you put them together and how you make blends, they get to be good, what she calls them word callers, but it doesn't mean that they understand what the words mean, what's going on, like what's happening in the story. If you say the words but you don't know what's going on, you haven't got the comprehension. And that's a problem, because comprehension is not just picked up, it is taught. You know, how to use inference, what do these phrases mean. You discuss language with children to help them develop their understanding of words.
So Denise, now, like, you know, we are in a multicultural society where the people have come from different parts of the world, and the English is not the first language too. Like when I came to Canada about 20 years ago, did I speak English? Yes, but is anyone understood me? No, because you have a accent, you have, you know, and honestly, sometimes still, like, you know, to comprehend something correctly, I translate and backward, you know.
Exactly.
So when at that, I'm just putting myself in that age group, when you have English is not a first language and we are talking about decoding and phonetic and comprehension, and what you think as what's doing, are we challenging the child, or what your thoughts are on
it does remind me, and I think we've talked about this before. My first years of teaching were in First Nation communities up in northern Alberta, and I had children who had not learned to speak English until they came to school. And well, one thing we had there, and I don't know if you had it here, but we had supports in the classroom, educational assistants who would help, and like they could help translate from the teacher's English into the language the child spoke, and then be able to help the child be able to interpret and go back. And you're right, sometimes you get some back and forth. But one of the things that I always found wonderful, and I'm sure it was with you too, is that within a few years, children were pretty fluent in both languages.
That is true.
Yeah, they get the language as well. So as far as that goes, I think as long as the schools are able to have the supports in place for helping the children for whom English is a second language, then you know, they can develop it. With this curriculum, I would still think the phonetics is going to help for everyone, but the comprehension will also need to be a part of the education of all children, you know, whatever, if their English is a first language or not a first language.
Thank you. We have Denise Woollard with us. We are talking about the new education system, pilot program, I should be saying, from kindergarten to grade 6, which the current government is implementing and is a pilot program. And Denise has a vast experience in teaching, 35 years, that's a long time. And she has not education in psychology also, and a special education. So her experts are good. So other one, I have a question for you, Denise, about the international testing, about the math improved from being ranked 14 in the world in 2015 to being 8th in the world in 2018. This would suggest the Alberta math education is being improved subsequently to achieve these results, and yet math achievement is being described by some members of government as being dearly in need of improvement. So I'm confused now, because once you are number 8 in 2018, and I can understand, being a safety person, safety is always a continuous improvement, and we want to improve.
Exactly.
So I do understand if they are saying it needs improvement. What your thoughts are in it?
I'm confused too, because you're right. The international testing shows that our students, and everyone should be very proud of this, rank 3rd in the world in reading and 3rd in the world in science. So obviously, that's another thing that is important for everyone to know, that our students are very high achievers, and 8th in the world in math. So 8th isn't as high as 3rd, but it's pretty good. It was 14th just 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. So obviously it has been improving, and continuing to improve, as you said, is always a goal. But to say that we're in dire need of improvement, it doesn't seem to fit with the facts. We have facts here. I've pulled up the graphs to make sure that that's what it was. And to say that it's a problem area is not, doesn't, like I said, doesn't meet with the facts, doesn't fit.
So Denise, the other thing, the government, when we spoke to the minister also, Minister for Education also, they always ask, and it's in the news too, and the government has always asked, okay, this is a pilot program, and we are ready to improve. Parents and other social, the teachers or teacher association should come forward and talk about it and what need to be improved, what need to be changed. What your thoughts are on that? Like, if we give a input or we participate in the program and give our input, will it change, or what changes need to be? What your thoughts are on it?
That is a really good question. I've read a number of people who didn't think it could be changed. One interesting, and these are teachers, one teacher who teaches in Edmonton, grade 8 social studies for one thing. She said the same material she's teaching in her grade 8 social studies is being proposed for the grade 2 curriculum here. And she said that doesn't fit. But she, even though she's a well-experienced teacher, said she's not sure how it could be improved by tweaking, by just changing bits and pieces. And some others have said they think it needs to be started again. I'm not sure. They've done a lot of work here. Maybe for some areas, maybe in some areas it could be, they might want to divide it up, say, well, let's look at English language arts. Maybe that could be managed by adding more emphasis on reading comprehension. That might be one that would be okay. And getting some authors of text, like one of the points was that most of the authors of books mentioned were non-Canadian white male authors, and we need more diversity. When you talked earlier about diversity, that's important. I think social studies, they probably will want to do that again, but like I said, language arts might be able to be managed with an adjustment. I don't know, I haven't gone through enough of the math, but I agree with the concerns about social. Science, there's been a few concerns, but again, I haven't looked at it. It's really lengthy.
It's a big program.
It's a big, and just for me to try to go over it and get to all the bits and pieces.
And and then what other things about, like, when they're talking about the computer science too, like technology?
Yeah.
I think technology is good personally, like giving information to the child what computers or the technology can do and cannot do, especially when we have in pandemic, especially the kids are all going online, even from kindergarten to grade 6. Also from Friday they will be going online.
Yes.
So talking about the computers and technology, what your thoughts are?
That's a really good point, and I did see one thing that I thought was really interesting. It said in the area of digital literacy that it's important that it be taught, but it should be, in order, like I like the terminology, in order for children to become informed media consumers, they need to be critical media consumers. They need to learn how to analyze what they're seeing on the internet, to know if it's like they've come up with, they figured 3 vital questions. Actually, it was researchers at Stanford University said that they should be asking who is behind the information they're getting, what is the evidence, and what do other sources say. And I think those are really good. And you could use those basic questions with children, down to probably grade 2 or 3 even. When you look at information, you could say to them, when you look on the internet, how do you know that information is correct, right? Who's putting that information out? Do you know? And what do other sources say? So I think that that's a really good point. It doesn't really say anything about becoming critical media consumers.
Denise, I know you have been retired.
Yes.
For a few years.
Theoretically.
Retired teaching full-time.
Yes, exactly.
So you are not teaching anymore. Think about that if we go back and if you were teaching today this pilot program, what you will do, if you have to do it, or if both pro and cons, right? If you have to teach, what you will be doing and how you will be teaching, and if you will be refusing, why you will be refusing.
That is a really good question.
As a teacher.
Yeah, as a teacher, I would find some of it I would be able to work with, because you can work around it. One of the things that I would have difficulty with the current, let's say, old curriculum, they had a lot of application. There'd be, I'm trying to think of an example here. Students will listen, speak, read, write, and view and represent to explore thoughts, ideas, feelings, and experiences. And then they talk about ways in which they could use them. So it's an application process. In the draft curriculum, there's a lot of explain, understand. So it's talk about, but not apply themselves. So the children, I think it sounds like, are learning and to understand terms and understand the meanings, but not necessarily be able to explain or put them into any context, like, why is this a good thing to do? The other thing this is something that might be of a concern, is that in the present curriculum there is a fairly good focus in the early grades especially on working, on cooperating in groups and collaborating and respecting other people and other people's points of view. And that's pretty substantial. And I didn't see as much of that in the draft curriculum. So I think that that's something that they would be better off looking at more closely. As one person said, in the previous curriculum, in the draft curriculum, pardon me, they talk about respecting history, but they don't talk so much about respecting people that you are in a group with.
The other question I have, and I did not have a chance to look in I couldn't find, when we talk about the school grades, right? Mm-hmm. When we are talking about we have children who are have difficulties, like, mm-hmm. Alec is ADHD.
Yes.
Then we have other kids who have different issues, or challenges, I should be saying.
Yes.
How this new system accommodate them? And
that is a really good question, because I taught quite a really broad range of children over the years. And I can tell you, and it's interesting you mentioning that, because I think in every classroom you get a pretty broad range of abilities and challenges. I had children, students with everything under the sun. One person mentioned here that when you're writing outcomes in a curriculum, they need to be quite broad and not too many of them, because you need to be able to, as a teacher, you need to be able to adapt them to the different levels. So you've got the child that's learning something very quickly, and the child that needs a bit more time, and another one that needs more help, and you need to have the same outcome but be able to make them understandable by each one, and not just have it all in one form, so that some children are bored, some are frustrated, and it's not really working for anybody but the very middle group, right? The very narrow one. That's not really good. But that's an area that I think I've heard talked about, but I don't know how it would actually be in practice. Nobody will know it until yeah.
Denise, we are talking this is a pilot program. I'm just finding I'm trying to find the right word. It's a challenging thing, mm-hmm. right? The government has, previous government has worked 10 years, 10 mm-hmm. years to bring the changes, is well thought about the program. The current government has brought it in. Teachers are, and Alberta Teacher Association also, they are giving their input also. Mm-hmm. It's kind of in middle at the moment, right? Government is saying, give us an input, right? Give us your thoughts and everything. What your message will be to our viewers? I
would really recommend that people encourage the government, go to their MLA, go to the Premier, give feedback that they think this curriculum they need to spend more time developing it. to go back and look at, especially areas that a lot of people have found problematic, look at them, but the whole curriculum, take time to go over, do it again, and consider the points that people are making. Diversity is something that is not mentioned really enough here. Indigenous peoples, culture, history, everything is mentioned very little. And like you said, religion. We need broad-based diversity and respect for diverse cultures and different peoples, and they need to take some time.
Thank you, Denise. I'm your host, Sonal Fold. You are watching Hunny Walia shows. Today we had Denise with us. She has vast experience, more than 35 years in education, and she is sharing and shared like her experience or what she will be doing or what her thoughts will be if she was teaching today. Mm-hmm. In the end, I would like to request all our viewers, we are in a pandemic situation. If you are eligible or you have been given, go ahead, get the vaccination so we can move forward. And we cannot go further unless we are all work together as a team. Denise, would you like to add something on that?
Oh, definitely. I'd like to express my support and sympathy for all the people everywhere that are suffering with this very awful disease, this COVID-19, and hope that with the vaccinations we'll get the pandemic's under control, hopefully soon.
No, like our sympathies, our prayer for all the people who are in hospitals.
Yes.
Hats off to all the people who are working in front lines, IT people, trucking, nurses, medical staff, even on the grocery stores, all the people who are keeping the economy going mm-hmm. and helping us to stay at home safely. Hats off to them.
Yes.
In the end, I would say you are watching Hunny Walia shows. I'm your host, Sonal Fool. We will take a leave till we meet again, but if you have any suggestions, recommendations, or have any more questions related to new pilot program, kindergarten to 6, please let us know. We will find an answer for you. Thank you.